a happy weekday. Maybe it's a happy Shabbos. Maybe it is.
It's definitely not a happy Shabbos.
It's not a happy Shabbos. It is a pre-Shabbos. You can take a Shabbos from Wednesday. You know that?
Okay.
People wish each other Shabbat Shalom from Wednesday, and you're supposed to start thinking about where you're going to eat Shabbat dinner or make Shabbat dinner.
That's very interesting because it's already happened to me twice where I've talked to people about Shabbat dinner plans and they've been like, talk to me on Wednesday.
Talk to me on Wednesday.
Sunday is not the day to be talking.
I'll tell you how you know this, how you remember it. So every day we have a psalm at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because everything comes from somewhere, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, at the end of davening, morning prayers, there's a section that is called the prayer service.
Hayom Yom Rishon.
Hayom Yom of the Levim, that the Levites would sing in the temple. We didn't mention this. Correct. They would sing it every morning alongside with the morning sacrifices.
Okay.
They would sing that piece.
Yeah.
And there's a whole piece in the Gemara, the Talmud, which talks about like why is each day related to that service, yada yada yada. Good. The last 3 lines of Wednesday is L'chun Adonai LaHashem, which is the beginning of the Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat prayer. So they say, you start thinking about on Wednesday, start thinking about Shabbat.
I'm gonna bring that into my life. It's a fun thing to think.
It is a fun thing to do.
Like I get excited for Shabbat, and I definitely celebrate it differently. But like you know that I on Shabbat can't make plans. That's like my way of like I can't be obligated to anyone. You'll ask me, am I gonna see you on Shabbat? I don't know.
You never know.
You might.
What's interesting is that 2 things. First of all, if you're a person who is a host a lot, that's when you start reaching out to people.
Yeah.
We also reach out to people beforehand just because people are very busy. Very. But besides for that, it's also, you start thinking about the people that you don't that you know might have fallen through the cracks. People don't have Shabbos dinners. If you live in a serious community, then you're going to do it at usually people invite young guys and girls who are in yeshiva. People can always go to Shabbos dinner at the yeshiva. Usually they have a big one. Girls in seminary, I think, also have a Shabbat dinner. High schools don't. Girls in the dorm, they go out for Shabbos dinners. So people will reach out and they do the whole start negotiating which Shabbos you're going to be at on a Wednesday.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So early good Shabbos, happy everything. We are going to get into a very fascinating Torah portion. This is the Torah portion of Balak.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh my God! It's banger after banger. These stories are okay.
Now you know why we did not start from the beginning.
Yes.
We started from the beginning of this.
Of this.
So as we did last time, I think we should really emphasize that we're going to do kind of the overarch of the whole big picture, and then we'll have fun getting into small kishkas in the middle. Okay. So first of all, the general gist of the whole thing. The general gist of the whole thing is that the Jews are still at the edge of Israel. We are going to be holding in this point until Moses passes away. Okay? So the location, the setting is not changing. Things are going to happen. There's going to be fun. There's going to be excitement. There's going to be at least 1 war, maybe 2. There's going to be excitement. Things are happening. Fine. However, the location where they are, they've parked. They're at the edge of Israel. They're on the eastern bank of the Jordan, basically across from Jericho. That's where they are, first of all. Number 2, so where are we going? What's happening? In this Torah portion, we're going to cover a very fascinating narrative. Number 1, we have this cursing of the Jews, which is this beautiful and fascinating story. Not just story. What happens is the king of Moab hires a sorcerer and a soothsayer to curse the Jews. It fails miserably. Spoiler alert, I think it's obvious because we're here.
Yes.
And it fails miserably. It is followed by, there's two parts to the story. One is the first piece where he hires him, which is a whole story and how it plays out. Then there's the process of the trying to curse the Jews and how everything turns into a blessing instead. God forces him to say blessings. So there's 4 long poems where he basically curses the Jews. But he doesn't curse them. So he just blesses them straight all the way through. beautiful, amazing.
Because he can't get a curse out.
God says, you're going to say the word that I told you to say. And Bilam is like, well, so again, Balak is the king, Bilam is the sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll repeat that again when we get into it. No problem. Then there is, so that's like part 2. That the actual prophecies themselves, we'll talk a little bit about them, but it's much more valuable to look at them when they're inside the text.
Yeah.
Because they're poetic, and there's a lot of interesting things in them, but it's like, okay, we'll talk about it when we get there. And then there's a whole banger episode at the end. Okay. So now that's if you get to the end, you get to enjoy that. And if you don't, I'm sorry.
Next week.
Too bad on you. Okay. So number 1, starting off the Torah portion with some interesting ideas that we have to think about before we even get into the narrative. Bilam wants to hire a guy named Balak wants to hire a guy named Bilam. Balak is the king of Moab. Moab is right now south of the Jewish people. They're terrified the Jews are going to attack them. Happens to be the Jews went right around them and didn't even they asked them if they can go through. They said no, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. The commentaries jump in. They're like, why is Vayar Balak saw? What did he see? What is he worried about?
Maybe he saw the great victories in the previous portion.
Okay.
And he was like, oh God, I'm next.
But the Jews didn't attack him.
But now maybe they have, maybe he fears that at this point they got a taste for blood.
That is one very strong interpretation, yes.
Okay.
A slightly less intense interpretation is that they didn't want to be plundered. They were like, the Jews weren't allowed to harass them. They were not allowed to conquer land, but they were allowed to keep coming in, taking stuff, and they just didn't like it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, Balak hires or wants to hire Bilam,
mm-hmm.
which is a sorcerer, who is a sorcerer.
In the Mikra, he's referred to as a Navi, no?
Yeah, a prophet.
As a prophet.
A prophet.
I always asked, and I remember asking you about this, but I always asked, it's like, why would, someone who is not of positive spiritual status in Judaism receive Nivuah? Why would Hashem be giving this guy Nivuah? And you explained to me, I'm going to say it, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but you explained to me that it had a lot to do with the fact that there are balances. For every positive energy in the world, there is a negative energy. And therefore, someone with negative intent, but high spirituality, I guess, or high spiritual connection, was able to achieve Nivuah, which is, I guess, highly sought after in our world.
So first of all, I think there's a bunch of things to lay into this. Because you're right. In the same way that a strong light has a very strong shadow. Right? If you have a very strong light, we have a light here, and then you hold it up, the shadows that come off of it are going to be much more stark. If it's a dimmer light, a softer light, the shadows are not as stark. Similarly, when there's a high, strong energy in the world, there's a lot of stories in the Torah that are hidden within shadows. One of the things famously, which I think is interesting to bring up for the topic of Mashiach, which shows up later on in Bilam's prophecies, which is that there will be a Redeemer for the Jewish people who's going to come take us out of exile and bring us back to Israel. And he will be this incredible person who's going to have incredible power, spiritual power, prophetic power, emotional power, like a very, very, like a real, like a Messiah, Mashiach. So all the stories of Mashiach. So first of all, the fact that who is the one, he's only mentioned in the Torah that there will be a Redeemer, a later Redeemer, not Moshe, but someone else, like at the end of the process, in the prophecies of Bilam, who's a non-Jewish prophet, which is fascinating. Right? And to even to emphasize it, he's a non-Jewish negative energy prophet.
Yeah, it's not that he's out, it's not like Yitro, even before he joins the Jewish people, we see him as this positive figure, right. And it's like he just hasn't, figured it out yet. Bilam, negative intent.
Correct.
Which, interestingly, I heard a midrash saying that Bilam and Yitro were colleagues. They were both working under Pharaoh
and who was the third?
As sorcerers.
Who was the third?
Ooh, I want to know this.
Job.
Eov.
Eov.
Like from Sefer Eov?
Like that one, yeah.
The one who had all the horrible things happen to him?
Yeah.
But he was a tzaddik.
So he didn't say anything.
I thought he was Jewish. No, not Jewish.
Doesn't say.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that Medrash says that they were actually all three. The Talmud brings it down. They were all three colleagues.
Working as sorcerers for Pharaoh.
And when Pharaoh comes to them and says, "What should we do with the Jews?"
Yitro bounces.
Yitro suggests not to kill them.
Yeah.
And then Pharaoh doesn't particularly like that. Bilam suggests the idea of enslaving them, and more importantly, the idea of throwing the kids into the Nile,
Mm-hmm.
which means he was already an antagonist to Moshe from day one.
From day one. So he's also an old guy at this point. He's also running on
well, he
like
could have been
100 plus.
time. He could have been 20.
No, but if that was happening,
Yeah, he's older.
that
Yeah,
means he's over 100 at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Moshe's over 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bunch of, and Eov doesn't say anything. He basically holds his peace and he says, I'll just abstain from voting.
Who we also see as someone who the angels in Sefer Eov consider to be a good guy.
Correct. Which is
Mm.
interesting. Which is very interesting. Maybe that held such a high standard at the time. Maybe, he didn't say anything. Maybe he knew it was going to go that way. He didn't want to jeopardize his position. But Yitro has to run because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because obviously Pharaoh gets, he sours to his advice. As Yitro basically says, if I leave now while I'm still alive, maybe I'll still be alive. So he does.
Worked out.
And it worked out nicely. He becomes Moshe's father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
Bilam becomes Moshe's counterpart.
His nemesis.
And then Eov just kind of goes off and gets a book named after him.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes through some stories, but that's details.
It's a wild book.
It's a whole separate
Next year.
thing. Yeah, we'll get there. We're not worried. So what's interesting is where do we take this? Okay, so first of all, there's a major conversation in how do we look at black magic and sorcery
From Judaism.
from a Jewish perspective. Is it real or is it not real?
Well, I know that it says in the Talmud that Yetzer HaAvodah Zarah, we have a, today I think most comparable thing to it is Yetzer Hamin, people who have sexual drive that draw them to do things that wouldn't align with who they want to be spiritually. And people say that the Yetzer Avodah Zarah was so strong, it was even stronger than that which we see as maybe an animalistic but still natural tendency. And one of the reasons that it was so strong is because, and this I don't remember where in the Gemara it says this, but it says that if you were to chop your hand off and pray to Avodah Zarah, it would have grown back.
Oh, wow. No, so I've never heard that directly.
Okay.
Not saying that I haven't learned at all. No, but
it's been like 20 years since I've looked in a Gemara book.
But the reality is there definitely was power that came from the negative side, as we say. Right? And I think that it makes a lot of sense. The more magical energies that existed in the world from the spiritual side, the more outside of nature things happen on a daily basis. Whether it was Jews in the desert, and they're experiencing miracles all the time, whether it was in Israel, we were living.
Well, even the
veil was thinner, put it that way.
Well, even we have direct quotes from the Torah, or I don't know if it's Midrash or in the Pshat itself, of Pharaoh's sorcerers duplicating some of the plagues.
Correct.
So it's clearly something. Something
there
was happening.
There was a power we call kishuf, a power of magic. It's very interesting. Rambam, for example, Maimonides, for example, basically says that don't do magic because you're not allowed to. The Torah says you shouldn't do it. It's all stupidity. It's illogical. It's irrational, and it doesn't work. And he basically says that it's all hallucinations and mental. Your brain is playing tricks on you, and he'll basically say it's like, all these debunking scientists who get all into this stuff and like, oh, you think it's this, and like basically they use like these tests, and you've probably seen these videos. They're all over YouTube, where these guys like, mentalists who can like bend spoons with their head, with their minds, or whatever it is. They put them in a controlled situation where they're not allowed to actually touch the spoon, or where they're actually suddenly it becomes much more difficult. Their concentration is broken, the TV lights are problems, etc., 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 etc. And they do like slow motion cameras. They can see that they're playing games. So there's a lot of stuff where it's like that would be Rambam's like path. Maimonides says, yeah, it's all fake. It's all not real. None of it actually has any power. And so when you do the problem with doing it is that basically you're going in the path of the fools and the idiots who believe that it works and they think that it helps. In the same way that you have people, not to get on anyone's bad side, but it's the same way that people who are playing sports games and they have their special jersey and their special bar they go to and the drink that they order and how they da-da-da-da-da, and you don't wash this, you do wash that, and all the superstitions that come out. And basically we know them to not be true. It allows people to have lovely superstitions in their lives, but it's all Baba Mises. Okay. Yeah. That is one kind of directional path to go in. Another directional path is to say that there is power from the negative side. There is power of Klippa, for sure. Mm-hmm. And it has power.
Klippa, we haven't touched on that word in the podcast.
Okay, talk.
So Klippa is the Kabbalistic term for negative spiritual energy. It's brought up in the book that we're studying right now, in where if you do things that are against your godly nature, you are giving more power to Klippa. And to take it one step further, Klippa may give you more power because you're giving it more power, which is why sometimes we see bad people getting good
energies.
Good energies.
Yeah. So Klippa literally means shell. And the metaphor is you have a shell of a fruit.
Yeah.
And the idea is you have there's a berry or a nut inside. Mm-hmm. The Klippa is the thing on the outside, and everything in the world basically has a shell. That is the thing that you interact with. It can be very, very bad and very negative. It also protects on a spark of God that exists inside of it.
Which, by the way, is I only realized that while you were saying now, but also it creates a clear distinction between our souls and our body. Our body is our Klippa.
Correct.
It's just the
outer shell.
Just the outer shell.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the skin, literally.
Just the skin. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, so there is negative energy of Klippa, and there is power to sorcery, and there is power to these things, which then is why the Torah tells us not to go in that path, not because it doesn't work, but because it works, but it's the wrong path, right? Satanic rituals, people are very into these days, the conspiracies of satanic rituals and pagan offerings. You do these things and whatever. You know, I don't personally know that it is happening in the way that people are thinking, but if you consider every time a person transgresses on the will of God to be feeding energy to Klippa, which is what Kabbalah says, then every time somebody goes against the will of God, that is a satanic ritual. Which means they're happening all the time, every day around you. Be careful.
Yeah,
don't look over your shoulder.
If
you're watching this in a dark room, you better watch yourself. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting way to say it, because that sounds crazy. But the point is, again, it's not that there's someone, they're not sacrificing, people
that we know
of, right? What they're doing is you're transgressing, going against what God has willed into the world. And by doing that, you're feeding energy to the negative side, the Klippa side. It also makes sense that Klippa should have a lot of powerful energy. The same way that it has a lot of holy energy, it's going to be a lot of powerful energy. Remember, the lighter, the stronger the light, the stronger the sharper the contrast. The thinner the veil between the worlds, the more the Klippa is going to have energy and exposure. The Talmud is full of stories of demons and full of stories of, negative, bad things happening that come from energy of demons, Klippa.
Yeah. And
we don't use the word satanic because we don't believe that. We believe that the Satan, we do have a Satan, but we believe the Satan is on God's payroll. He has a 401k, he has benefits, I think vision and dental both.
What's his gig?
His gig is that he is there to entice the people, and he's basically to provide the other side of the story.
Okay.
He's there to provide balance to the force. He's there to provide that there should be a choice to be made. He's there to create the ultimate expression of the finiteness, so that way there is a real choice between either just going with the finite, which the ultimate expression of the darkest place is evil, versus if it doesn't, if you choose to go to infuse the finiteness of the light, there's a point of the negative energy where you say, okay, beyond this we don't go. The way that we elevate this is by saying no, versus by saying, I will elevate you.
Okay.
Right? As an example, just, well, we don't need an example, it's obvious. Okay. So Bilam was a person who leaned into these negative to klipa. He did things to be able to channel the energy. So, immoral things. It was specifically done to be able to channel this energy in the way that people talk about satanic rituals and stuff like that. He went a little bit in that direction, a little bit. But because of that, he had a channel. What's interesting was that God himself gave him a conversation, a direct line. So he spoke to God as well. Interestingly, because we're going down this path, it's very interesting. Today, there's a lot of popular push in certain Kabbalistic, spiritualistic circles in which they're leaning very strongly into Kabbalistic astrology, Kabbalistic tarot, Kabbalistic other stuff, horoscopes and things. And the more that I've looked into it, the more that I've discovered it, I think it's insane.
Well, yeah.
But why? Why insane?
So many layers.
Okay.
So many layers. For one, and this is something that I value about, like, Judaism has kind of kept this going. And I think that in a lot of the other religions, when you get into the true, like, the people practice, it's the experts are in their 80s and going blind because they spent the past 75 years looking at the texts and practicing it and experiencing it. I'm not super impressed and drawn to someone who opened up an Instagram page and is 22 years old and is going to change your life. So when I see that, and another thing that I roll my eyes to a lot is when people are like, well, Kabbalah is not really a Jewish concept. Like, have you heard that?
Yes.
It's I'm sure, and I'm no expert, I'm sure, or not even sure, but I imagine there are ways to apply Kabbalistic concepts to your life if you're not Jewish. It is a Jewish,
It's Jews who made it, it's Jews who discovered it, it's Jews who communicate with God, who experienced it. It's a Jewish tradition.
It's also a Hebrew word.
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anyone.
You know that Kabbalah is spelled in the old, it was spelled with a Q.
Well, if you see on his,
Kabbalah.
well,
Very
if you look at Israeli signage,
Yeah, they still do it.
K's are Q's. So
Kufs are Q's, yeah.
Kufs are
Kufs
Q's.
are Q's, yeah.
So Kiryat Arba is Kiryat Arba.
Kiryat Arba, yeah. It's weird. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's crazy, and I'll give you also a logical thought process that occurred to me as I was talking to somebody today. I was learning with somebody, and we were talking about Kabbalah and Kabbalah tarot and this and that. So first of all, and I'll tie it back into the Bilam thing in a moment because it all connects very very smoothly. The whole point of Kabbalah is to emphasize how everything is one. Everything is one. Everything comes from God. The biggest complicated conversation is how do you get from an infinite oneness to a multi-dimensional, very complex universe. We have answers in Kabbalah. We use different schematics to translate. There's a tzimtzum, which means a contraction to remove God's light. How does that function? How does that work? There are the 10 sefirot, which is these energy beams or energy flows that are 10, but really they're all one, and they're all lights, and they have vessels. We use all this language. There's letters, and the letters have meaning, and everything, the whole point of it, what is the goal of the whole, every schematic in Kabbalah is to tell us that really it's all one. The deeper you look at it, the more you go into it, the more one it gets. And what is our purpose here on earth? To reveal the oneness everywhere and to bring the sparks of light that are everywhere out.
Mm-hmm.
To unify everything together. That's the whole point. What is Kabbalistic astrology? What is Kabbalistic tarot? To show you all the different streams. How if you talk to this and you see this, and suddenly it's separating more and splicing it more and more. And if you think about it, there's actually 7 planets. And by the way, there's 12 zodiac. So you could have, I think you could have 7 times 12, right? Because it depends on which or actually it's not even 7, it's 7 times 12, and then you also have like the equinoxes get mixed in, and you have birth charts. It's like, it's just making it more and more and more complex. And the goal is to like give you a control of complexity and some kind of like a reading on your situation that is based on this like the separating out of all these different pieces of the energy. It's precisely the opposite of what Kabbalah is supposed to be doing.
Wow. Yeah, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons that I feared studying Kabbalah up until this point in my life. I don't think I understood. I thought I always saw it as something like more like what you just described, as opposed to what we study.
Correct. And what's so it's so opposite. So I was interesting. So this is the conversation I had this morning, where this person showed me a Kabbalah tarot, and they showed me how basically, and I don't know if it was meant to be this way, and it could be that it isn't officially this way, but it happened to be that the top card on this deck was the Fool. Okay? Now, I don't know if the Fool is meant to be the top card in the deck, if it's like has the most power, the most
I think you're supposed to shuffle it.
No, but I think it was like in a schematic. There are levels within it. There's of course it has to be complex. There's suites, there's sizes up and down, whatever. Anyways. So to me, right away, it harkens back to the conversation that we're having when we're studying the Chassidus that we're studying, the Kabbalah that we're studying. And it also harkens back to this conversation of Bilam, which is in a Klippa hierarchy, who is going to be the highest? Obviously, the Fool. Not the scholar, not the warrior, not the king, not the prince. It must be the Fool, the Joker. Why? Because Klippa can only receive its energy from God in one of 2 ways. This is what we just started talking about.
Yeah.
Klippa can receive energy from God in one of 2 ways. One is that the energy gets shrunk down so far, goes down, deeper, till eventually there's so little, it's dimmed, and it's made anemic, and light, and watered down, and dark, and filtered, and dirty, and basically the light, eventually you pass it through a bunch of screens and a bunch of filters, it becomes so dim that even anything that would be burned by it isn't burned, and now it can absorb it and use that as an energy source. Okay? So Klippa, that's the primary way that Klippa gets its energy from God, or the divine source, the master, ultimate one source, the oneness of energy. Okay. Then you have the other way, which essentially is it goes up to a place.
Klippa goes up to a place.
Klippa reaches up to a place. I'll explain how that happens in a second. But Klippa reaches up to a place where God is so far distant from anything in the world, and so far distant from any of creation, so pure in the oneness that good and evil, light and dark, up and down are all equal. And to that space, whoever comes and asks, essentially the answer is yes.
And that's how Bilam.
So that's what, I mean, this is a long conversation, which we're not going to go into, but I'll leave a clue. That's why Purim is called Purim, lottery. Haman tried to access that energy through using a lottery, which is a non-rational experience, to be able to draw down this non-rational energy, so that way he could go to a place where basically he and the Jews, who are
on the same plane.
They're on the same plane. So he's going to try to do a genocide, and essentially whoever arrives and says, please fulfill my wish, okay, wipe it out. You want to kill the Jews, good for you. You want whatever it is. It didn't work out, and that's why we actually named the holiday Purim, because we also drew from that energy. But that will leave for a Purim conversation.
Purim episode.
Which is very, very powerful. So the idea that he successfully reached that place, and there he found out that God still loves the Jewish people, which is fascinating, and would not let them be wiped out, even though theoretically in that place everything's equal. There's not even good and evil. Bilam, so all Klippa wants to do, all Klippa tries to attempt this, which is to channel the energy from a place where there's no differentiation between good and bad. We call it makif, which means the surrounding light. We call it sovev. It's again the surrounding light. It is a non-internalized light that doesn't see differences in where it's arriving. Klipa tries to access that. The easiest way for Klipa to access that is through doing a sin. Through a person who has access to incredibly high energy, who then does the wrong thing. It basically busts pipes, the spiritual energy flows, and then the Klipa can get from that wash.
Okay.
That is also what Bilam was reaching towards. And that's where Bilam spoke, how Bilam spoke to God essentially. And it also God allowed it because of this. He didn't like, first of all, because of the primary reason is because God, at that point, God's like, whatever, whoever wants to have energy, you can have energy, but also because God was keeping the balance between Moses and the whole situation. So that's just very interesting as far as like how Bilam and this energy, and therefore one of the things that I this conversation about the Kabbalistic tarot, the Kabbalistic astrology and all that, first of all, I think half of it is fake.
Or half of what?
Half of what people say is fake.
Yeah.
But even if it is real, meaning in other words, they're pinpointing energy flows, the correct things, etc., etc. This is what it says in the Torah. Not to serve idolatry. This is it.
Wow.
It isn't don't serve idolatry because it doesn't work. The same way you don't have a command.
So someone, like in the name of Kabbalah, opening tarot cards is avodah zarah.
I would say this is what the Torah says, don't commit idolatry.
Mm.
I don't want to say what people are committing or not committing because I don't know. I wouldn't want to put someone in that category, first of all.
Yeah.
But also, this is my judgment. But if you think about it, there's no rule, there's no law that says, Gilad, when you go down the street, don't fly. Right? Because it's a physical thing you're not able to do. So theoretically, there's two ways you can look at why there's an injunction against idolatry. Either you can say the reason is that we're against idolatry is because it's foolish, it's dumb, and we want to save you from being an idiot, right? Which is the Rambam, the Maimonides' way of saying it, which essentially is there's a bunch of idiots out there that are all disturbed and lost and confused, and we're trying to save you from being an idiot. The other way of looking at it is that, no, it does work. And we are enjoined to follow the true God, or the true way that God wants his energy to flow into the world. And a simple way to understand the metaphor, very simply, or to understand this in a very simple, the sun provides energy to Earth. Right? We know this is a scientific fact and a real fact. In theory, it would make sense to bow to the sun. I think we may have mentioned this in a previous podcast even. A sun salutation. What's a sun salutation? So in yoga, it's a very big thing. It's a sun salutation. Interestingly enough, a sun salutation is a bow. It's not a wave. It's not a salute. Happens to be a bow. Okay, interesting. Why? Because that's where it came from. And in theory, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of like, when you go to a bar and the bartender serves you a drink, the first thing you do, you say thank you. And who do you tip? The bartender, right? Even if your buddies with the owner, you still only tip the bartender.
Yeah.
Right? And you still thank you the bartender. You don't talk to the owner. You don't ignore the bartender and walk off and talk to the owner.
Yeah.
That's not a nice thing to do. So when the sun every day beams down to your crops, megawatts of energy, your house is being powered, and the crops are being powered, and you're burning coal, which used to be trees, that is being all these things are coming from the sun. If you want to get even deeper, the sun fuels a lot of the wind because of the heat differentials, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Most of our stuff that go on Earth are from the sun, and a whole bunch of other stuff comes from the moon. Would it not make sense to serve a goat? Once in a while, offer a goat. What's it going to hurt you? Just to say thank you.
Yeah.
Especially if you hallucinate one day in the middle of a heat stroke. The sun said, give me 2 goats once a week. Give 2 goats. It's worth it. The sun's awesome. It's like a 20% tip. highly suggested.
Yeah. So basically you're saying that's why it would make sense to...
So the point of do not serve idolatry is this might be the bartender.
Go to the owner.
You talk to the owner because you're the owner's kid. And because you're the owner's kid, you obviously smile to the bartender, which in our case, we wouldn't even smile to the son. And the reason is because we understand that the son is not a bartender, but the son is like a bar tap, right? You don't thank the bar tap for functioning; it's a machine.
Yeah.
Right. You just one of the interesting things that I think that because we saw Optimus serving drinks during South by Southwest. They had this like little pop up where we're like serving. It was basically picking water bottles up and handing them to people.
It was
Optimus is a robot.
A robot. Okay.
The Elon Musk, Tesla, XAI space cadet robot.
Okay.
Yeah, it was serving drinks. It was like it didn't move at all. I think it may have been paralyzed from the waist down, or not paralyzed, turned off from the waist down, whatever it was. But it was serving drinks, and it was interesting because when you see a machine, right, when you go out and mow your lawn, so you can hire someone to mow your lawn.
You don't think the lawnmower.
You don't think the lawnmower. You'll thank the guy for doing it, but you don't tap your lawnmower. And
So we
say,
understand
"Thank you,
that
Rusty."
the son is the lawnmower,
Exactly.
not the guy pushing it.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Okay, so that is a good intro into the idea of sorcery. And we understand, especially from the way the Torah speaks here, is that Bilam had real power. And it could have been, in fact, we do mention him earlier on. He's hinted to in the Chumash, where it talks about like how he's the one who helped, I think, Sichon capture an area because he cursed them. So he had power. He knew what he was doing. But he's turned into a fool. Okay, so now that we've spent a good quality amount of time speaking about good stuff, let's get into the beans.
You brought 2 books today.
They're both Chumashim. I didn't want to... This is the Kahat Chumash with a commentary that is heavily based on the Rebbe's teachings. It's Rashi mainly, but the way the Rebbe's lens of reading it. And this is a classical, boring, old Chumash with tiny letters. I love it. Okay, so let's get into the Kishkas. Kishka in Yiddish means the intestines, the belly of the beast. Balak sees what happens and he flips out. He basically sends off a delegation with his neighbors, Midian. Midian was not in the path of the Jews. Midian actually had no reason to be involved in this whole situation.
Far East.
They're more to the east, yeah. I don't exactly know locationally how they are in relation to Moab.
It couldn't that be.
They
It
had
couldn't
to
have been
have
too
been
far.
correct, but we don't
Because Moshe, on his way back to Egypt, stops in Midian
for a bunch of years.
from Cush.
From Cush for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
He was a
So
Cush
it
for a bunch
couldn't
of
have been too far out of the way.
But Cush is where?
So I would say Cush is in the middle of Africa.
Right. So Midian.
Would have to be either in like
But
Sinai.
It's closer. It's closer. There's a map somewhere that I've seen before showing exactly where it is in relation to everything else. And of course I don't have it right now.
Can I pull it up?
Maybe. Yeah, pull it up. See if you can find where it is. Because essentially the I'll tell you what I'm challenged what I'm challenged by is how is Midian close enough that they're not threatened, far enough that the Jews didn't really pass by them
Yeah.
on the way up? Do you see what do you have?
I'm trying to like pull something up.
Do Midian map biblical times?
Okay, so Midian, it looks like it would have been southeast, like we said. So just like
Southeast of
Moab
Moab?
of modern day Jordan.
So the Jews passed by it, but basically
They
it wasn't
passed to the north of it. So if the Jews would have passed to the north of Midian and to the south of Moab.
but they didn't. They went to the north of Moab.
No, but they went around Moab. They came from the south originally
Right.
and went around
So they went to the east of Midian.
to the west of
It's
Midian.
Edom.
It's where today would have been like the northern part of Saudi Arabia.
So they went between Midian and Moab
Mm-hmm.
when they traveled up. Oh, okay. Interesting. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Midian and Moab were deathly enemies, like Iran and Iraq for a while. maybe still. They hated each other, but they hated the Jews more, which sounds like Iran, Iraq. They hated the Jews more, and they were willing to combine forces to be able to get rid of the Jews.
Okay.
The reason why Midian is important now is because they're very important later on in the story as well. Balak was a king for a short period of time. In other words, they bring him into become king temporarily, or as a response to the threat of the Jewish people.
Okay.
And he is ready to do whatever needs to happen to get the Jews to get the Jews out. He sends elders from his country, from Midian's country, and they go to Bilam, who is then living in Aram, which is much more
Northeast.
north, yeah. And so they go to Bilam and they say, "Hey, I need you to curse the Jews." And Bilam begins to play this whole game. And basically, he's like, "Well, I don't know. Let me see." Because he basically suspects that God's not going to let him. So he says, stay the night. God doesn't come to me during the day. I'm a big prophet, but not by day, only by night. He'll come to me at night. I'll have a vision and we'll have a conversation. I'll let you know what happens. God comes to him at night and says, "Who are the people with you?" And Bilam was like, "Oh, you don't know everything. Cool. Okay. So I can sneak a curse past you." He's like, "Oh, these are the people. They came. They want me to curse the Jews. They're going to pay me a lot of money. I'm thinking of doing it. What do you say?" And God says, "Whatever you try to say, you're going to say only what I want you to say."
And this is still the pshat.
Yeah, this is straight up. He says this straight out. Whatever you try to say, you're going to only say what I want to say. What I want you to say. So he wakes up and he tells them, "Sorry, but I really can't help you. It's not gonna work." And when they went to him, by the way, one of the things that says they brought with them a bunch of tools. He doesn't say what they were, but material like paraphernalia, sorcery paraphernalia. Part of it was they're like, "We're gonna pay you good money. We have all the paraphernalia that you need. You don't need to be like, oh, I need some stick from this country that's the only made." We have it. We have everything. Whatever you need, we've got. You have the entire Saudi Arabian sovereign fund ready at your disposal. We will do this all the way. So Bilam tells the elders, I can't do this. Not going to work. The elders of Midian had already left, but when he first pushed them off, Midian were like, "Forget it. It's never going to work." They bounce. Moab stays the night. He tells them in the morning that it's not going to work. Then they go home, and they send another group of people, and then they send another group of people. And they beg him, "Come on, come." And essentially, Hashem, he says, "Okay, I'll ask God again. We'll see what happens." God talks to him again, and he says, "You know what? If you want to go," and by the way, this is why I think is fascinating about the whole story. As it continues to play out, you will see that basically God is saying, the path that you want to go on, if you insist, I will try to hint to you. And when I say hint, I mean tell you explicitly not to do this.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it anyways, it's your problem. You're going to suffer the consequences. Yeah. It keeps happening. He says no. Then he comes back. He's like, "Well, what's going on?" It's like, "Well, they asked me again. What do I do?" He says, "Do you want to go?" "Yeah." "Okay." "No." "Please."
Do whatever you want, yeah.
Whatever you're going to want to say, you're only going to be able to say what I tell you to say. I'm warning you.
Yeah.
It's going to be kishkas. Okay. So he says basically, go, the straight up words, "Go with the people and you will say the thing that I want you to say." Mazel tov. Bilam wakes up early in the morning, jumps on his donkey, and he goes with them on the way. Now I want to pause for 1 second and point out also that there's a tangent here embedded, which is the idea of the power of speech. We talk about the power of speech in Judaism a lot. There's a bunch of mitzvahs that are tied to speech. You're supposed to recite the Shema. You're supposed to study Torah out loud, say the words.
Mm.
There's a famous how do you say a female sage? Just a sage?
I guess.
Sagette?
Which?
No. She was a Torah scholar, the wife of Rabbi Meir.
Okay.
Not a sorcerer, like a chachama, Talmidah chachama, tzadika, Bruria. And she saw one of her husband's students sitting and learning without talking, without saying it. He was just like thinking. She kicked him. And he says, "What are you doing?" She says, "You're sitting and forgetting your Torah thoughts." He says, "What do you mean? I'm studying." She says, "But you're not saying it. You're not going to remember it if you don't say it."
Wow.
Love it. You have to have your whole body involved. So, speech is very, very powerful. What's interesting about speech is a few things. Number one, speech is the point beyond which it's the point that things leave me and go out into the world. They go to you, they go out to the world. That's where the external part of you begins.
Mm.
Speech is something which once it leaves you, you can't take it back. Right? You say a hurtful thing, it reveals the inner essence. It's not like it reveals. It does. It reveals how you're really thinking. You have no control. If you have a recording of yourself, if you have of something you wrote, you have no power over it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because in speech you really see the power of a human. Right? What are we called when we categorize the categories of creation? There's 4 categories of creation. Domem, which is
dead,
quiet, silent.
And yeah.
Right? Domem is silent.
When we say domem in Hebrew, we're referring to inanimate.
Inanimate, right?
Mm.
Not sentient, not living. Nothing doesn't grow.
Yeah.
And we can talk about this as a separate kind of. There's really more to talk about here. Which part of the human, each part is connected to. There's domem, there's tzomeach, there's growth, trees, plants. Maybe these trees.
Nope.
No,
Not
they're not. They're domem too.
Yeah. Tzomeach, you have chai.
The chai means life, alive.
Mhm.
Animals are alive.
Mhm.
They're signified by the fact that they can move around.
Mm-hmm.
What's the highest level?
Adam.
Medaber.
Medaber.
Speaker.
Ah, okay.
Speech. Animals, we don't call it a communicator, by the way. I want to point that out. You don't call it a communicator. We say a speaker.
Mm.
Because animals communicate as well.
Yeah.
Honeybees have a dance that they give each other directions to the nearest flower.
Yeah.
Right? Animals can talk to each other about
Dogs wag their tail.
They can talk also where food is, where drinks are. They can express emotions. They can even pass tools along. Some chimpanzees. There's no animal
That talks.
No animal that can create speech.
Yeah.
That can talk an abstract idea into being. When God created the world, He created the world through speech. Which is, again, this power of creation is emphasized in speech and speaking. So the power of speech is very powerful. Therefore, the way you talk, the language you use, right? There's a whole conversation, a Jewish conversation, a spiritual conversation of not gossiping about people.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
incredibly
about.
difficult.
That when you were talking about
Right.
the power of speech, it's like one of the highest regarded sins that you can do, and one of the most painful punishments you can get is for lashon hara.
Correct. I didn't want to go there initially
Yeah.
because that's where people's minds go,
Mm.
and then it totally sucks the oxygen out of the conversation. But now we can bring it in.
Mm.
Yes, speaking bad about somebody else, not only does it have a negative energy in the fact that you spoke bad, it's a bad thing to do, it actually, because you spoke the words into being, it
Yeah.
actually enhances that trait in the other person.
Wow.
That's why it's negative, not just for the person. The Talmud says, Jewish law says that it's negative for the person who says it,
The person who
person
hears it, and the
and
person who
the
is
person
spoken
you
about.
speak about. So if you're talking about negative experience in the world, so that you look like a schmuck, the guy who listens to you or the person who listens to you is a schmuck, and the guy or the gal that's spoken about has this negative energy that people are talking about them badly, right? But if you're talking about from the perspective of a moralistic perspective, the person who speaks it obviously is not good. The person who hears it obviously
Yeah.
is listening and participating. But why is the person who is out there in the world spoken about? Why is there a moral repercussion on them? So the Baal Shem Tov taught us that it's not that there's a moral repercussion that they did something bad, but when you speak about when you speak about a specific character trait about a person, it actually enhances that character trait in them. You see this, by the way, in scientific, psychological things. That if you want someone to act smarter, you can use this in sales calls. You want someone to act more logical. You say, "Hey, you're a smart guy."
I did that in experiment when I was when I was a commander in the army. I had a driver, and he was a wild dude from rough home and everything. But like, just like, military cars are like, you get because it's like you're dealing with 18-year-olds. You have to be extra careful, especially when it comes to driving, because so many accidents happen, especially with Israeli drivers. And I spoke to a commander of mine from a previous unit about this driver. I was like, I don't know what to do. And he says, it's easy. Just start complimenting the things that you like about his driving as much as you can. And I got to the point where I was like, I love how you make me feel so safe by keeping such a big distance from the cars. Yeah.
It sounds so like...
No, but I didn't do it in a fake way.
Right.
I was like, I found the things that I like. I was like, wow, you really feel at home behind the wheel. Like, if you look so comfortable when you drive. I made fun of myself. I was like, I'm like a grandma behind the wheel. Like, you feel like you look like this is your kingdom. And he, sure enough, chilled out.
It's so awesome. It's real. It's real. Speaking something into existence. Now, obviously, this is like in their brain and psychology, no problem. But that it's a real thing.
Yeah. Actually, with my student also now, when someone I teach guitar, he was going really slow, and I started trying to point out the things that he hasn't realized that he's progressed in. Like,
beautiful.
Yeah, you've been playing for 6 months and can't play a C chord, but have you noticed that you no longer have to look at your left hand to place your fingers where you want them to go?
That's great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't speak this language before. Now you can sound out vowels and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not full sentences, but you can. That's pretty cool. And past few weeks have been the best. Like, he's jumped.
Essentially, you're telling him you're a musician.
Yeah.
And you have music inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bringing it out from his soul.
Very cool. Now I know the Kabbalistic side of why it works.
And how it works is fascinating. So this idea of, and by the way, speech is interesting because speech itself is half dead. The words are half dead. I could read off a paper, same words that we're saying right now, but I'm not, the cadence isn't slow or fast. I'm not invested in it. I'm not interested in it. And it comes out dead, right? I could have you read my words.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same.
But it's my words. But if you're reading it, there's a balance of energy flowing through the words, which is why really we call the letters, we almost call the letters domen. The letters themselves are dead, and that when we speak it into
we bring
existence.
them to life.
Yeah, we bring them to life.
Speak it. Abracadabra.
Yeah.
For you at home, abracadabra is actually a Hebrew term. Avracadabra means I will speak it into existence. I will create by my speech.
Abra. Bara is Hebrew for create. Bereshit bara. Abra is basically the Aramaic. Aleph is always I. Anochi. So Abra, I will create. Kidabra is Aramaic for as I speak, or as I say. And we Latinize abracadabra. Abracadabra. Okay, so now we have an understanding of why this is a big deal. That Bilam was planning on coming to curse the Jews. It also, as we will, when we turn into blessings, the blessings are going to be, they're interesting blessings. They're very, very cool blessings. And in general, the power of blessings is also very powerful. Generally speaking, we say that, blessing has to be channeled down by someone who's holy and spiritual and pure, but there's a very, very strong saying in Midrash Rabbah, maybe? I don't remember the source. Which says, Al tehe birchas hejet kala beinecha. The blessing, don't let the blessing of a simple person be light in your eyes. It's a real thing. Any person can give a blessing, and whenever someone gives you a blessing, always make sure to say Amen. Yes, it should be so. It's a real thing. It's a very serious thing. The Rebbe spoke. The Rebbe would encourage Kohanim who have an extra power of blessing which is in Parashat Balak. Spoke about that a little bit. Naso or Balotcha? Naso. Parashat Naso spoke about it. The end of the thing. We'll see. But those spoke about the encourage Kohanim to give the Birkat Kohanim a lot. And in the 80s, there was one Simchat Torah that Rebbe said basically that everyone has the power to give Birkat Kohanim, and you could give it and give the blessing, and you have the power. You're channeling, at least not the same level as Kohen, obviously, but everyone has a little bit of that energy. You can use the Birkat, and the fact that it's very common that parents will bless their children with it. People, when they become, get elevated to higher positions, they get blessed with it. There's things like that. So it's very cool. It's very, very powerful. It's a powerful blessing. It's built on this power of speech. It's not only the negative, it's also the positive. In general, in Judaism, we say that the power of positive is 500 times more powerful than the power of the negative.
Okay, which is why Bilam could only prophesize when he was sleeping, as opposed to.
Which is what? Well, that's yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can't see my face. Okay, so here we are. Bilam gets on his donkey, travels down the thing. Hashem is upset at him. I love it so much. Hashem is upset at him, and Hashem says, Bilam, my dear, this is not going to go the way you want it to go. God sends an angel to stand in the path of Bilam. The Kabbalah, the Talmud tells us that in general, humans, there are a lot of angels and demons that surround us at all times. They're always around all over the place. And the human does not have the ability to see them. Animals do. Animals are not sentient. They're not as affected by it. Doesn't bother them. It says, why can't you see the angels? Because if you can see one, you can see the other. Basically, if you have the filters on, you can see them both. And if you see the demons, you're going to be it's called mazikin. You see the destructive forces. It will have a massive effect on you, negatively. You're not going to be able to withstand it. So therefore, you don't see any of it. Animals can see both because animals,
They don't care.
They don't care. They're chill. They're like, dude, where's my bone?
Yeah.
You haven't brought me a bone yet. Okay. So the angel comes and blocks Bilam while going down the path. It happens not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each time, Bilam beats his donkey with a stick.
Because the donkey is the one seeing it, and
The donkey sees an angel with a sword.
and Bilam doesn't see the angel,
Bilam can't see anything,
even though he's a prophet.
even though he's a prophet and a sorcerer and everything.
So the donkey sees it and first starts acting out, and then
Well, first of all, I want to point out that it was 3 times, progressively narrower spots. The first time it was in a field. The donkey basically goes off the road. The second time it was on a much more narrow, like between 2 vineyards, and the donkey pushes up against
and wounds his leg.
Bilam's leg, and it pushes up against the wall and basically rips open Bilam's leg, but it passes the angel. It goes like around the angel by squeezing by it, basically. And he beats it again. And the third time it's a very, very narrow spot.
And he stops.
He has nowhere to go. He can't get around the angel. So he stops and basically sits down. And Bilam beats the donkey again. And at this point...
Which is where we get stubborn as a donkey.
Correct. And Bilam...
And also Shrek's talking donkey.
Yeah. Well, this is where it comes from.
I always pictured him having the voice of Eddie Murphy.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Every time I read this, I'm like, Eddie Murphy's doing this.
Oh, it's funny. It's actually a female donkey, though.
No,
so what?
Yeah, Eddie Murphy plays women.
It's a great voice. Who cares? Yeah. So what's interesting is that the simple understanding as to why it was 3 times in 3 different kind of areas. Hashem was showing with the narrowing as he getting closer and closer. He has less and less of an option really to turn back. Or he basically has his option was get distracted, do something else. But here's as he getting closer and closer, you're getting to a point where you're not able to. Also, God is sending a message like, hey, if you really want to curse somebody, you want to curse one of the children of Avraham, there's many children of Avraham. You can kind of wander off. But as you get closer and closer, like this is the children of Yaakov. You can't curse Jacob. You can't curse any of them. which is interesting. So, at this point, Bilam beats the donkey, and the donkey opens her mouth. Piha aton. God opens the mouth of the donkey, and she says, "What have I done to you that you've beaten me 3 times?" Bilam says to her, "You've humiliated me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you." Which is incredibly ironic. He's about to go wipe out an entire nation
Without a sword.
with magical incantations.
But he can't kill a donkey.
He can't kill his donkey with a magical incantation, which is like humiliating. But he says he blurts it out and just in rage. So then the way that the Chumash reads is interesting, and then the Rashi and the Medrash layers in. She says to Bilam, "Am I not your personal donkey that you have always ridden from beginning until end? Have I ever done this to you?" And he says, "No, you have not." And the Medrash reads into that. It's like a long sentence the donkey is telling him that there's basically the Moabites ask him like, "What has she like? What is this?" He's like, "Oh, she's I borrowed her. I don't know. She's just a stubborn mule." And she says, "I'm your personal donkey." He's like, "Well, usually she carries my stuff." He's like, "No, I'm your I carry you all the time." She's new. She doesn't listen to me so well.
We've been doing this for years.
He's talking to them, and she keeps butting in and basically throwing him completely under the donkey, right, and running over him multiple times. And he's like, and then she says, "Did I ever do this to you?" He says, "No." And then, after being humiliated twice, or more than twice,
By a talking donkey.
by a talking donkey, at that point, God opens his eyes, and he sees the angel of God standing there with a sword drawn. And he freaks out. And he bows to the angel. And the angel tells him, "Why'd you beat your donkey? You beat your donkey 3 times, and it wasn't her fault. It was because she saw me. Why'd you do it to her? It's not nice. She tried to save your life." And so Bilam says, "I have sinned. I didn't know that you were there." Just sleazeball. And again, this is where it's like the way that you want to go. He says, if it displeases you, I'll go back.
Yeah.
I don't mind going back. It's okay.
Some passive aggressive.
Very. And the angel replies back to him, "If you want to continue going with these people, go. But remember, the word that I tell you to speak, that is the word that you will speak."
I think that there's also something to be pointed out about the fact that Bilam is on a very high spiritual level, whether it's for good or for bad. Really, you can't pick up on your donkey fighting you 3 times in a row. It's never done this before. I feel like that's also like, it's not that the angel's being like, we don't hit our animals. Like, I think it's the angel going like, we both see what's going on.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't figure this out.
Yeah. No, you can figure this out.
You should have figured it out.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're being willfully ignorant.
Yeah.
And what happens to the donkey right then? The angel kills it.
The donkey.
It dies. Partially because its usefulness had been used, but partially because an animal that humiliates a human to this level dies. It's not going to be a continued humiliation for him. He got the kick in the guts the way he needed it, and now at this point, if it was still remain alive, everyone would be like, "That's the donkey. That's it. It's over."
So Bilam is now going to be limping to Israel.
Limping and later on in one of the things he mentions, he's blind in one eye
Because of the donkey.
because of what he tries to do an ayin hara on the Jewish people, and God blinds him in his eye. He tries to give the evil eye, which is also a negative sorcery type thing. It's like a superstitious thing. People have those red bracelets. That's for the ayin hara, which I don't know if that is a thing to protect from the ayin hara, but ayin hara is a real thing. Ayin hara is the thing that we say kin ayin hara, kinahara, kinahara. This is a linguistic podcast. We teach you Yiddish and Hebrew and English words that the Jewish people love, and tell you the sources for them and how they came from. For example, abracadabra and kinahara. Thank you. Kinahara is ken ayin hara, as in without the evil eye. The chamsa is an anti-evil eye thing.
Yeah.
The eye on it is the evil eye. Blue.
Kapara alecha.
Kapara alecha. Evil eye. All these things are evil eye. I know people who didn't believe in the ayin hara for many, many years, and then they had situations where things were going strange. They went to somebody who's called upsprechen in Yiddish. We call it upsprechen ayin hara, whisper away. I don't know what they do. There are people that know how to upsprechen ayin hara, and it worked. So these people, I know these people pretty well, that they had the upsprechen ayin hara, and then from then on, they're very into the whole ayin hara thing. But even so, like some people, I know people who won't post, all the Instagram, blah 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 blah. They won't post personal family photos online.
Oh yeah. Well, in Israel, and especially in like Middle Eastern families, like in Moroccan or Turkish, there are a lot of things. You don't pass knives from hand to hand. A knife is passed by putting it on the table, and the next person can pick it up. Broken glass, spilling salt, all the good stuff.
I think it's to protect my hara.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But even like putting a picture of a family online, the goal is that you don't want people to see how big and how beautiful your family is,
and feel negatively about it.
And be like jealous, and then cast an evil eye, and the next thing you know, you're dealing with all these problems.
Yeah.
Like Baruch Hashem, life is good. You want to thank God for the blessings, but not necessarily does it have to be publicly, in a way that rubs salt in everybody else's lives.
100%.
Not everyone else has lives equal to you, and also your life looks much better from the outside. On the inside, it's always going to be a little bit more nuanced, to put it mildly, or difficult, to put it not so mildly. So, you always project the most beautiful version of it, and then everyone's like, they emphasize in you the bad parts, that way destroy the image. Okay. So Bilam arrives in Moab. He makes it there finally, and he gives him a tour of different areas of Moab to show him basically.
Balak gives Bilam.
The king gives Bilam a tour to show him like the different areas of Moab, like this is what's going to be destroyed by the Jews, to get him like emotionally invested. Like, look at all these people. You want them to die because the Jews are going to run them over. Just asking questions, but do you want them to be destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he offers. He basically they slaughter one animal, and they eat that for their feast. And Bilam at this point is cranky, in pain, mad, still determined to curse the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's always in the bad guys are always fighting with each other. So right at this point, he wants Balak to pay. So in the morning, when Balak takes Bilam up onto a mountain nearby where he could look as part of the Jewish people, he looks down on the people, and Bilam was like, "Okay, you're going to offer 7 altars with 7 goats and 7 bulls. Like, I'm just going to kill animals. I want you to lose tons of money on this project because I'm annoyed. Burn all your AI tokens this week. Enough. Good luck.
The NFTs.
All the NFTs." So then he does that, and then Bilam says, "Okay, look, I'm going to try to talk to God. And God doesn't come to me by day usually, but we'll see what happens." And he comes back and God shows up. It's like, okay, well, we'll play ball. God talks to him and says, "Okay, here's your message. Take it to Balak." And he comes and he says, Balak brought me here to curse the Jews. How could I curse those who have been blessed? How could I invoke God's wrath on those that God is not upset about? And the language, I actually looked to see if there was a poetic version of this online, or there's actually a fascinating book that translates the Chumash linguistically word for word, tries to give the rhythm. I couldn't find it at home.
Okay.
But it's a fascinating, the rhythmic kind of poetry.
In Hebrew.
to copy the Hebrew.
Mm.
So if you read, for example, the language of the Hebrew, I'll give it for the linguistic piece. Ma'ekov lo kaboel, u'ma'ezam lo za'am Adonai. So he's using the same language. How could I curse those that God haven't cursed? How could I anger? But there's a poetic way to say this. And I see kimirosh tsunim enenu, from the heads of the mountains. I see, and again, there's a lot of poetry here, in which you can understand this in many ways. Rashi himself gives multiple interpretations to some of these. They come from the head of the mountains. They come from the beginning of the hills. They're a nation that dwells alone. They're not amongst the other nations. They're not reckoned among the other nations. Which that interpretation, it's a lot of interpretations there, but today we see it. We are a nation that sits alone, no matter how much, no matter what we do right or wrong. The Jewish people are singled out. We're in the headlines all the time, whether it's the land of Israel, whether it's the people of Israel, whether
100%.
it's the politics, whether it's we're always above the fold of the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, the ugly, whatever it is. We live alone. Our nation's alone. The best. The UN. Who does the UN? What was the UN made for?
It was
Probably to talk about Israel.
Yeah. Well, that's what it does.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
So it wasn't made for that, but that's what it ends up doing. So who counts? And it's again, it's there's too much textual layers here to really unpack it properly. So I'm just gonna go a little kind of softly on it. Who counts the dirt, which means the descendants of Yaakov? Who's counting the multitudes of Israel, of the Yidden, of the Jews? I would love to die a happy death, and I should have my soul should end like theirs.
Bilam says.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Partially, what happens is
that the blessing that he gives or not yet?
this is the beginning of the blessing, where he's talking about how basically I'm blessing them. They're blessed. They're blessed people, and they come from these great places, and they're going to draw down that energy to them. They should be drawn down from the great places. Is the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, their original sources and spiritual sources, Chacham ben Adat. Like there's a lot of layers here. This is where he goes blind. This is where he goes blind. And later on, it actually becomes the eye. He goes blind, I guess, during this prophecy right now, and it deteriorates so quickly that they have to take it out of his socket. So he ends up with an exposed socket, and he talks about it in his fourth prophecy. About this is the prophecy of the man who has one socket open and one socket closed. Isn't that great?
Wow.
I love the visceral images.
And is this the one where he also talks about the Mashiach?
Coming. That's number 4.
Okay.
So then Bill Balak's like, what are you doing? Shut up. And he says, I told you what God tells me I can say. What he doesn't tell me I can't say. Our sages also go into this and say, hey, look, whatever he wanted to curse the Jews gets flipped into a blessing. So there are other parts of the Torah where there's like very, very intense speeches, curses, where God tells the Jewish people, if you do the wrong thing, this is what's going to happen. And basically what they're saying is, realize that everything that is can be transposed. I've mentioned this, we have mentioned in the podcast. There's a very beautiful example of, I'm trying to think which one is what. There was the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the master of the Zohar, heard that his father had 2 friends who were visiting nearby, and he tells his father, they're visiting, he says, oh, go to them and get blessed. And he goes to them, and they rattle off a list of curses. They just curse him roundly to his face. So he goes back to his father and says, you sent me to your friends to get blessed, and now what's going on? And his father says, what did they say? So you list off all the curses. So his father says, oh, those are all blessings. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but because there's another story which is very similar, so I'll just give the examples. I don't remember which one it belongs to. One of them is you'll have children, they won't be in your house. So having children that won't be in your house is you're going to have a bunch of girls. They're going to grow up. They're going to move out because they all get married, right? It's like cursing somebody. You're going to have a filthy home. Well, maybe you're going to have a filthy yom because you have 10 kids. And it's not filthy all the time, but when your kids are eating supper and they're playing, I should hope you let them get it a little filthy. What bigger joy do you have having stuff everywhere? You're gonna have the word is chaos sounds scary. You're gonna have a mess in your house. Filth is dirty. You have a messy house. You're gonna have piles of laundry. You're never gonna be able to get through it all. Well, if you have 12 kids, those are signs of good news, right? You're gonna. I'm trying to think of another simple. You'll sow and you won't reap. You'll sow and you won't reap. I think it's one of the things that they actually that they gave Rabbi Lazar. You'll sow and you won't reap. You'll have children, and they won't die on you. Biggest blessing in the world.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to die before their kids? Everybody, right? So blessings are hidden in curses, and curses can be hidden in blessings, depending on how. Also, depends. Careful what you wish for. You have a blessing, you don't know what it. It's the famous of all genie stories. Talking about a lot of sorcery. All genie things are all about. You ask for a wish, and it turns out.
Yeah, the
consequences are what eats you up. Okay. So Balak tells Bilam. He says, "Oh, this is not working. Let's try another thing." They go somewhere else. So then again, God comes to Bilam, and again he comes and says, "I'm going to talk to you." And he says, "Wait here by the altars." He goes off. He comes back after he meditates and speaks to God. He stands up and he says. At this point, again, they're fighting. So Balak is like, "Who did God tell you? What is it this time?" He says, "Balak, you bastard. Listen to me, you son of Tzipor. God is not a person." Again, these are things that when we go into the Kabbalah of it, it becomes very interesting. But God is not a man that he should lie. He's not a mortal. He changes his mind. Right? Which is true. Which is powerful. And yet you go back to the beginning of Genesis. It says that God regretted creating humans. Right? And then it says that God wants to wipe the people out. Why does he want to wipe the people out?
Because they sinned. Because
humans are corrupted from their core. So therefore, he's going to wipe them all out. Then he makes a covenant with Noach. And what does he say to him? "I'm never going to provide another flood." Why? Because humans are corrupted from their core.
I love it.
It's interesting. We're not touching it. We're bouncing on it. He says, you think Hashem's going to say, but this is the truth. God is not human. He's not wishy-washy. I heard a story from an old Rabbi Popak. I think it was Avram Popak is his name. From I think he's from Toronto, but he was in Chicago. They would get messages from 770 from Chabad headquarters. Different directives had to because they were running basically activities in Chabad in Illinois, helping out this older rabbi who was running the activities, and they would get certain messages. This is before the Rebbe became Rebbe. And so it was the previous Rebbe who would sometimes send a directive like, "Oh, you should add this activity or do this thing." And then you had, but sometimes it would come from the two son-in-laws of the previous Rebbe. The Rebbe, who was the younger son-in-law, and his name was Rabbi Shmuel Gurari, called Rashag. He says, a lot of times they would get a message from one of them. The Rashag had ran the yeshiva. He would do a lot of fundraising. The Rebbe ran 3 other organizations: the publishing house, Machane Yisrael, and Merkez. 3 organizations. So they would get messages back and forth. They were working on education. They were trying to revitalize all of Yiddishkeit. And Chicago was a very major city, and like all major cities, you need a lot of extra effort and stuff happening. So we asked him, what are the unique things that he remembers from this fascinating time period? He says, "I'll tell you one thing. When the Rashag would send a message, we can call him up, we can argue with him. Maybe we'll convince him, maybe we won't, but we can negotiate the situation. That would never change his mind." He said, "This is what you should do. This is my directive. You don't want to do it, it's fine. This is what it is." So in the beginning we tried, and we learned. He knows what he's saying.
Yeah.
You want, you don't want. fascinating. Not I struggle with that with my kids to project that. Right, when it comes to small decisions, but it's healthier for a kid to know
that answers are definite.
they're not within reason, obviously.
Yeah.
And if you're an idiot and you make a stupid answer, don't hold to it because you have to hold to it.
Yeah.
Right? But therefore, two things. First of all, don't make a decision right away.
Yeah.
Because, can I have a candy? Think. Answer. Because your answer you have to hold. So see if it actually, what if it's not worth it? What if you're tired? Right? It could be it's not for the kids, for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the right answer for me right now? I don't have energy to fight this. Sure, I'd be happy to. Better than no, followed
Please,
by please.
Fine.
Fine. Because if it's a no that you thought through, and the kid says, please, he's like, I said no.
Yeah.
It's okay. Well, we're going to have dinner in like 20 seconds. We're actually walking to the dinner table. We pass by the pantry. That's what the snacks are. That's what you asked. Okay. So Bilam points this out. He says, he told me to bless them. Blessing them. There's no one bad among them. Everyone's good among the Jewish people. Hashem, even if he does think they do the wrong thing, he overlooks it because he loves them. And he continues on. I mean, again, it's there's no sorcerers. There's no sorcerers. There's no soothsayers among the Jewish people. They're tamim, as we call it. They're whole with God. They want to be connected directly. So what I'm doing is not what they would do. It's not the direction. And then, Hen am kilavi yakum.
Am kilavi.
Am kilavi. This is the name of
most recent Iran operation.
The Iran operation. No, not the most recent one.
Yeah, Am Kilavi.
Are we still in Am Kilavi?
It's not. It's the one that just ended.
Wasn't there another one afterwards?
No.
You sure?
Am Kilavi was the one that started this past Purim.
There's Rising Lion and there was another one. Roaring Lion. No?
Shagat Ari.
Shagat was two. It was two. Yeah,
okay,
we had
Am
two.
Kilavi was the first
So
one.
that was the first one. So that started right around this Torah portion last year.
Interesting.
Correct. It was named after this. That's Israel might just name it after the Torah portion by accident.
By accident.
Yeah. So Am Kilavi Yakum. They're going to rise up. They're going to be strong like a lion. And again, you read this, Rashi's interpretation, the layers of it. They rise up in the morning to serve Hashem first. They pray in the morning. The minute they wake up, they're putting on a tefillin. They're putting on a talis. They're praying to God. They're making a blessing, the morning blessings on their food. Like, they're deeply integrated into a spiritual practice. You want me to curse these people? Like, what are we trying to do? And when they lay down, they have mitzvahs before they go to sleep. They pray the evening service. They say the Shema. Maybe they're eating dinner. If they're eating dinner, they're making blessings before they eat. They're eating blessings after they eat. They're wrapped up in so much holiness.
Yeah.
Like, what are we trying? It's not going to work. And what does Balak tell Bilam? Of course.
Try again.
Stop it. Stop. Don't curse. Don't bless. If you can't do the curse, don't say anything. Have I not told you? God told me. Whatever I tell you to say, you're going to say. Again, this piece of say what you want, but I'm going to tell you what to say. So don't think you're going to get away with it. Oh, maybe I'll do it when God is looking the other direction. It doesn't work that way, my dear.
Yeah.
By the way, how do we know this whole story?
Written down. Yeah, it's not happening. I'm guessing Moshe prophesizes that this is happening.
He envisions it. He sees it. Because unless theoretically you could argue maybe someone came from the Bilam camp or the Balak camp and was captured.
Yeah.
Well, there's a war later, so maybe they capture some people.
No, I like to imagine that Moshe prophesizes this.
Yeah, probably. That's how I seems to be obvious. But I never thought about that until much later. I'm like, yeah, we actually were not there. The Jews are just chilling.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they were three guys suntanning. They're like, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
They're like, well, they weren't. They were studying Torah all day. But maybe they were suntanning in between study sessions.
Or studying in the sun.
Or studying in the sun. He's like, what's going on over there? I was like, I don't know. Do you have binoculars? 7 altars. All right. What do you think that is? I don't know. Smoke signals. I don't know. The Cherokees live here. Okay, that's it. Next. Did you know the Cherokees live in Moab? Okay.
Apparently.
Well, no, Moab and Utah, you never know. So he tries again. Third round, third time for gold. And so he just tries to invoke the sin of the golden calf. He's like, I'm not going to try to do this like divination prophecy thing. I'm just going to look straight. I'm going to invoke the sins. And maybe God will be mad. And maybe we'll be able to do that. So he looks out towards the desert over the people. And he's looking towards like to invoke this, like the desert sin that they did. And what does he see? He sees the way that they're dwelling so beautifully. And he sees he has no choice. He has to bless them. And so what does he start off with? Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. How beautiful are your tents, O Israel, which our sages teach us. There's, again, many things here. But one of the things even is that the doors of the tents didn't face each other. So that way, you're going in and out of a tent. And yes, they have flaps, they have maybe double doors, whatever, but people in their tent, the idea generally is you're a little less modest, you're a little less private. Maybe people are doing things in there that they want to keep quiet. So if you set up your camp in such a way that in a regular kind of linear fashion, all the tents face each other, and how many people have your windows are across your neighbor's windows. So nowadays we all have blinds and shades, but not really. Whenever you look at it, you can take a peek. When I lived in New York, it was like, how much did you inadvertently see in your neighbors' apartments or your houses, especially at night? The lights are on. You can see things if you want.
Yeah.
And he says that, and Bilam looks out and he says, I see you guys are set up in such a way to minimize as much as possible anything like this happening. It's like, wow, you have set yourself up in such a way as to provide more morality and more focus and more spirituality to the way, just in the very basic way. The way that you live. It's beautiful.
Which we read
every morning at the beginning of our prayers. So we're quoting this hate-filled sorcerer as part of our opening prayers. We say, we accept upon ourselves the mitzvah to love every other person as ourselves, love every Jew. And then we say, immediately afterwards, it's beautiful.
Like, I imagine that he hated the fact that these words were coming out of his mouth. Imagine if he knew that we'd be quoting him for the rest of time.
Maybe he'd like that part. People like legacy, even if it's infamous.
No, but it's like, not only were the words drawn from his mouth against his will, they're repeated every single day. That's crazy.
Yeah. By millions of Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. And so he then begins to bless them. So again, he's Matov Alach Yaakov, and he says like you should be like rivers flowing by the river, like the Garden of Eden that Hashem himself planted. And he keeps going. All these different blessings. And again, this is very beyond we can keep continuing. But then Balak claps his hands in frustration. He says, I asked you to curse them 3 times, and you blessed them 3 times. Leave. Go away. I said I was going to honor you. I'm not going to honor you. I said I was going to give you gold and silver. I'm not going to give you gold and silver. And Bilam responds, I told you the only thing that God's going to tell me I'm going to say. But that's it. So now, at this final time, 2 things happen. First of all, Bilam says, I will now tell you what's going to happen at the end of days. Which means this is, again, the only place where we have, because we talk about this, where does the idea of Mashiach come from? Where does the idea of end of days come from? Where does the idea of a final Messiah come from? So the prophets are jam full with it. It's all over the prophets, right? But we always like to have, every idea
a reference in the Torah.
Theoretically should be in the 5 books.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it is. This is what will happen. Well, he opens his mouth and says, "This is the name of a person, with the one eye, the one socket. But he says this is what's going to happen to you at the end of days.
Acherit hayamim, is that the term?
Yep. I will tell you what's going to happen. This nation will do to you at the end of days. And then he begins to say, I see it, but it's not now. I prophesize it, but it's not soon. So he's telling us that Mashiach is going to come.
It's going to be a minute.
It's going to be a while. I see a star will shoot forth from Yaakov. A staff will arise from amongst Israel. It's going to, of course, it's going to strike the princes of Moab. It's going to undermine the descendants of Seth. And then they're going to of Seth. Shes is the third son of Adam, who's basically the father of most of humanity. And he says they're going to possess Edom, and they're going to basically take over the whole thing, and they're going to punish Amalek, and it's going to all these nations. And he goes through a whole.
Is that this quote? Alufei Edom, or no?
No, that is that. You think of Hazinu.
Yeah.
No, that's Azyasher.
That's
the song on the sea.
Oh,
They
that's
heard what happened at the sea and they freaked out.
Okay.
As he goes through the whole.
What is it? What does he say?
Okay, so he says. So what does he say? He says there's going to be someone who's going to come forth from Jacob, and there's going to be a staff from Israel, which means there's going to be two. Really, also earlier on we see there's the lion arises, the lion gets up. Even then, we right away say that there's King David, there's Mashiach. There's going to be a Messiah at the end. And this second one is going to really destroy Edom. This is what we currently Jews consider this to be the fourth exile. In the narrative of history, there are four exiles. One of the ways that we know this, one of the places we're told about the fourth exile, is from Daniel. He talks about four exiles, which is a fascinating book because the end of his prophecy.
Babylonia, Persia, Greece, Rome were still under the Roman exile.
Or yes, so you can talk about four from starting from him, or if you want to include Egypt as being the first exile, then Persia and Greece get blended because they were essentially flowed from one to the other, or Babylonia and Persia get blended, depending on how you do it. But yeah, from Babylonia, Persia, Greece, and then Edom, which is Roman. And if you think about it, what we're currently under is most of the world
is Roman culture.
Direct Roman culture, or indirect.
I had a rabbi when I was in a pre-army program who every time he saw us acting in a way that wasn't how he wanted us to act, he would state which exile we were acting like. So if he saw us going like skipping class to go to the gym, Tarbut Yavan.
Yeah.
That's the way the Greeks would act. Because they would work out, they would the Olympics,
the gymnasiums, yeah.
If you were gambling, Tarbut Roma.
Okay.
And that's just how he would say that one word, and we'd be like, he's disappointed in us immediately.
We have failed him again.
Yeah.
Okay. Forget it.
Pull the entire base closer to you.
There we go. Then I can't see the book. Okay, here we are. Okay, so it sees that Amalek is going to be punished, and they're going to be destroyed. It's interesting because the way that the Chumash does it, I don't know why it does it like this, but maybe it's because that's how he experienced it. Where basically he sees them, then he sees a prophecy about them. He thinks about them. He's like, oh, he prophesies about that nation specifically. He sees another nation. He's like, oh, he talks about them also. So he sees Amalek, and he's like, they were the first ones to attack, and they're going to be the ones who are going to be destroyed completely at the end as part of their punishment. He sees the Canaanites, and he says, you guys are the descendants of Yitro, the father of Moshe, so everything's going to be okay. and you're going to basically have a lot of your grandchildren are going to enter into because they end up mostly converting to Judaism. So they're going to blend into the Jewish people. They're going to be part of the nation. Even if your homeland is destroyed, you're still going to be like entered into the fold. And so the Jews will survive. You'll survive with them, which is again interesting to see. Like he's prophesying about the continued survival of the Jewish people over generations, over millennia. He thinks about the fact that there's going to be destruction of their homeland by the Assyrians. He's like, oh, let's talk about the Assyrians now. Sancherib is going to capture all these countries, and it's going to be have
He doesn't name him.
No. He says no. Who will live? That God will who will be able to live when God decides these things? It says the ships are going to come after him, and they're going to
They're going to come after who?
After the king of Assyria. They're going to wipe out Assyria, and eventually they're also going to be destroyed. So he basically predicts that there's going to be some massive empire, post-Assyrian Empire, which is the Roman Empire, and they're going to wipe it out.
Post-Assyrian would be Babylonian.
Post-Assyria is Babylonian. Post-Babylonia is
Persia,
and post-Persia is Greek, and post-Greek is Roman. But we're just like, there'll be somebody who comes through the whole thing. And eventually they're also going to go. Adei Oved. Eventually they're also going to, they've been Adeyad forever and ever, so Adei Oved. Adei at the end, Oved, they're going to be destroyed.
Oved with an aleph.
Yes.
As in
Yes.
lost.
And then he leaves. And he goes away. And he goes home.
That's incredible. That our reference for what the day to come would look like is from a fakakt.
Correct. Now, what's interesting is that part of also is this idea that Darach Kochav mi Yaakov, a star,
steps forth
will
from Yaakov.
shoot out from Yaakov, from Jacob, and become Shevet mi Israel, from the tribe of Israel. There will come forth a leader, a staff of leadership. Just the language itself is
beautiful.
Very, the imagery is striking.
Yeah.
And this is what we believe Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach is going to come forth. He's going to fight the wars of God, which can mean physical battles, but it doesn't have to be physical battles. Israel's doing a pretty good job with that right now. So there is some physical battles already happening. But we believe Mashiach is going to come and is going to influence the world to go in the path of God, and to bring justice and retribution to all those who need it. But more importantly, that everyone should be going to the path of studying and meditating and becoming closer and closer to the oneness of God. Everything, Vaya Bayamahu, we don't say it here. Vaya Hashem Melech HaKol Haaretz, Bayamahu, Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad.
Do we expect the other nations to keep the seven Noah laws?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah. They'll keep the mitzvahs that are commanded to them. But they're not going to be. There's no requirement they should become Jewish, but they're going to understand who. It's basically essentially saying, if this is the truth, it makes sense that everyone's going to recognize the truth. Everyone's going to be aware of the truth. They're going to follow the truth. They'll do.
And the
right.
truth has nothing to do. It's not in a relation of them to the Jewish people. It's a relation of them to God.
Correct.
It's not like them recognizing. They may or may not, but recognizing like where the Jewish nation's place in the world. It's them realizing their own place in the world.
Correct.
Yeah.
One of the
prettier.
It's beautiful, and also one of the interpretations and conversations that comes to one of these prophecies. I'm trying to see where the exact words are. Where it says "Va'acharito adei oved." I mentioned earlier adei oved at the end. It's actually mentioned twice. That exact adei oved, that exact language. So there's a conversation in the commentaries about, does that mean that when Mashiach comes, all the nations are going to be wiped out? Are they all going to die? And the Rebbe rejects that in a beautiful, beautiful talk, where the Rebbe basically turns a lot of the classical knowledge or classical direction of what happens when Mashiach comes. He moves it very, very much more in a classical spectrum, you call liberalizing it, right? Where he says essentially that to say that the people are going to be destroyed just because they're not Jewish is ridiculous. To say that they're not, he brought a few different like ways of like interpreting it and whatever. And he says, no, none of that's going to happen. They're going to survive. They're going to continue to live alongside us. It's going to be beautiful, wonderful. The question is that these, because he doesn't want to totally destroy the previous commentaries, they're great sages from the previous generation. He says, I'm going to tell you what their argument was. Their argument was, when Mashiach comes, are they going to be redeemed alongside the Jews? Or are they going to be redeemed in their own relationship, based on their own connection?
Answer is option 2.
So he says, you can take whichever one you want. He obviously leans towards option 2, which is that they're going to be the same way the rest of the world. In other words, everything in the world is going to be elevated and related closer to God. He says the Jewish people have a unique, special relationship with God based on the fact that God gave us the Torah, God gave us the tradition, He gave us 613 mitzvot to fulfill. So that's all true. And when Mashiach comes, it's going to be an uplift for the entire world. Everyone's going to be elevated and lifted up from it. So it's not a rapture type experience where only those who made it through get to go.
Yeah.
But it's not just those who believed specifically.
No, the world will be elevated.
Correct. And in fact, the Rebbe speaks about this, that the non-Jews are part of the people who bring Mashiach.
100%. We've spoken about this.
We have spoken. It's radical. It makes it. If you go by classical Jewish thought, again, everything you can try to read it back into old thought, and find hints and sources for it, which is how the Rebbe does it when he does his teachings. He's like, oh, this is from this source. So you don't see it so clearly. No, it's not so clearly. It is very, very radical to say that the people that are bringing Mashiach includes the non-Jews. The whole point of the chosen people was, theoretically,
to bring the rest of the world to
the
a place.
Jews are the ones who do the work. They're chosen to do the mission.
But then there's the concept of Ola Goyim, which is we shed the light.
So that they shouldn't be bad.
So that they should be good, not Jewish, good.
That they should be good. That they should learn from us how to be good. But not that they're fulfilling the mission.
But I always saw it as like they have a mission.
Because you live in a post world. In a world where this has been shifted.
Yeah, but I think that like non-Jewish heroism, like you have in Yad Vashem in Israel, you have the trees of Chasidim.
So we always had this idea that first of all, that could be two things. Number one, that could be, everything is two things. Number one, that could be in the way the relationship they have with their personal relationship with God. Not fulfilling a mission for humanity, and not fulfilling because again, if that's the case, then there's no nationalistic identity unique to the Jewish people, in that they're the ones fulfilling the mission. Everyone's fulfilling the mission.
But there is, if each nation's mission is unique.
In the fact that they live in a certain place and have certain talents and skills and certain resources, etc., etc.
Yeah, like we spoke about this. It's like we as Jews don't want to convince anyone to be Jewish.
Correct.
We do want to convince them not to worship idols.
Correct. But this feeds this. That also, again, that could just be that we can't imagine a world that tolerates. We can't tolerate people who go against God. That's not the same thing as saying these people have a mission to elevate the world and the physicality and their spaces and their places and their lives to the depth that they are bringing Mashiach through their actions. There's the anti-negative and there's the pro-positive, which is different. It's nuanced. Right? There's clearing away negative energy. There's putting in positive energy. Now, again, if you're going to ask me what does Kabbalah say this back to the zero, once the Rebbe uncovers the string, you pull it and everything shows up, right? But until you do, it's very hard to find.
Okay.
Today, I think anyone who says different is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But I do want to emphasize that there was a very strong piece of Jewish philosophy and Kabbalah that would say that no, there's like, what's the whole point? Like, what does chosenness mean? What does all these things mean? Which people are uncomfortable with that and they struggle with it. But once you bring it into this context, then it becomes very different. It's like in an army, you have different roles for different things. But if they're all it's not that there's a combat unit and you have people who clear the way for the combat unit so the combat unit can do the job. And then the people who clear are just like the clearing away people.
They've been chosen to clear, though.
you're clearing, you're doing this. Everyone has a role exactly how they
It's
have
the
to do
same.
it.
It's when I talk to people about like some people, I don't think they get uncomfortable when I talk about the fact that I was chosen to be a musician, or I was put on this earth to change people through music. I think some people could hear that as like get as uncomfortable or similarly uncomfortable as the people who get uncomfortable with the chosen nation. It's like we were chosen for this job. This is our chosen isn't people reference it like Yosef, like the favorite child, and I'm saying no. It's like the Levis. They just had a different task. It's not that they were chosen because they were favorites. This is their task. Yehuda's task is to provide a king. Binyamin's task is, and so on and so forth. And I think that's like the way I used to get really uncomfortable with we are the chosen nation. Especially, not especially, but like born here in the States, grew up in Israel, very secular, broader family, very religious, nuclear family. And I had a problem with that. And I don't know where I bumped into the way I'm talking about it now, but somewhere along the way it kind of shifted where it's like we've just chosen doesn't mean it's the same way I've been chosen to get you a can of soda from the fridge as opposed to the guy sitting next to me at Friday dinner. It's just a task. It's just our job.
Correct.
And other people have other
Correct.
jobs.
I will say there is an aspect of that which our job is in the military thing is that that job therefore puts you in a position where you have more responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have there's a substantial the requirements of what type of fitness level you have to have.
Oh yeah.
Et cetera, and you can't choose away from it. So it's ingrained into your identity.
I can't choose not to be a musician. I've tried.
Right.
Doesn't work.
Right.
Only what Hashem tells me to do, I can do.
Well, only what He says I could say. It's actually a very interesting intro to the next bomb of the story.
So we're done with Bilam.
Almost.
Okay.
Because Bilam does one thing before he leaves. He says, "Let me give you some advice."
To Balak.
Yeah. He says, "Free advice. But if it works, I want you to pay me." He says, "This God, my curses aren't going to work. Your army is not going to work. The only thing that will work for the Jewish people is self-sabotage." We see this, by the way, in Jewish history throughout the years.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
The Jews can fight with each other. They can mess each other over. The outside nations, the outside experiences. We've had the Holocaust, so let's not get too. But
but even then, like the Holocaust might be too recent for the wound may still be gushing, and therefore we don't feel comfortable doing it. But it would be easy to say, well, why did the first Beit HaMikdash fall? And we'd say, oh, well, this nation, sinat chinam. We don't point at the symptom or at the messenger.
Look at the cause, right?
We look at our cause from within.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of in Judaism is and like this I like
Don't blame the outside.
We don't blame the outside. It's always all of our scripture is not. It doesn't start in Sefer Shoftim where you have like another nation coming in and messing us up. It doesn't start with the other nation coming in. It starts with the Am Yisrael. They mess up. Am Yisrael screws up and they start worshiping this God, or they start fighting with each other, or there's this horrible story in Benjamin. It doesn't, and then the part where the other nation comes in, that's not the story. That's just like that's the consequence. I like that. I think there's just so much more to learn from that.
So Bilam knows what to do, and he gives advice on this specific thing. He tells him, all you have to do is get them to sin, and they will be like butter in your hands.
Mm.
So what do? They say, what do Jews like the most when they're shopping?
To complain.
They want a good deal. They want a discount.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh, yeah. Woo! So, they settle there and they're hanging out in Shittim on the plains of Moab, getting ready to enter into the land of Canaan. And Bilam sets up a massive bazaar. Balak, the king of Balak of Bilam. He sets a massive bazaar. And he invites, basically people are going shopping now. They have extra money. They just plundered from the kings they just wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
They have tons of stuff. They don't need anything. And don't forget, I'll remind you, God is taking care of all their food, all their drink, and protecting them with clouds around them every single day. They have the ability to study Torah with Moses, the best teacher, amazing situation, right? They're going on shopping trips. And in this case, it's the guys going shopping, which is, I guess, interesting. I don't know. They were going shopping, and they would go out into the bazaar, and while they were going through, they had some, Balak does this very specifically, they had older ladies sitting outside of each of the tents, and they would show them these very fine cloths and stuff, and they would say, out here we put some of the more expensive, you want discount prices, go inside. The guys would go inside. Inside, the sales girls were young and pretty, very beautiful. And they brought out wine and they brought out snacks, and very quickly it went from a conversation about linens to a conversation about beds.
Without linens.
Well, with lots of linens, yes. And it became a conversation of, let's have some fun together.
Mm-hmm.
And what the girls would do is they would say, sure, we'd love to. But also, have you ever heard of our god? His name is Baal. His name is Baal Peor specifically. And Baal Peor was an idol that the way that you worshipped it was to be Peor in front of it, which means to bear the nakedness, but specifically to defecate in front of it, to take a poop.
Mm-hmm.
There's other ways to say that, but we're going to be nice about this. Okay. Yeah, so people did it. Lots of people did it. Lots and lots of people did it. Went out, and they were shopping, and then I'm sure they came back, and they tell their friends, and say, by the way, go to Atlantic City, there's some good shopping there, and by the way,
the linens.
the discounts on the inside are way better than discounts on the outside. Just trust me. Go and try it. And so the crowd is having a party.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, the number of people that were involved in this, 157,000 people. It's a very large percentage.
It's a big shopping spree.
Yes, it's a lot of people that are going out and doing this stuff. So this is very serious. God becomes upset, and a plague is unleashed against the Jewish people. This is the second generation, so they also are not. They don't have memory from the first generation's major situations. They've been hanging out with God for 40 years in the desert, so they know what's going on. But this is a plague. The plague really hits them. Moshe tells the people, take them, judge the people. Anyone who bowed to an idol should be tried, and you should stone those who worship idols, hang them so everyone can see them, hang them in the sun, and then the plague will end. 157,200 Israelites were exposed and convicted. Shimon, one of the tribes, has and it's interesting that it doesn't exactly say, give me 1 second. The reason what they were being killed for is not immorality, but idolatry specifically. Which is an interesting point to put out there. Which is interesting.
It's interesting, but it also...
But don't worry, we're coming.
Okay.
We're getting there. Because there's more coming,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then they start going. And there's one guy, a prince, who we don't have his name yet. His name shows up in the next Torah portion, but his name was Zimri ben Salu. That was his name. And they come to...
Prince.
What?
Meaning the son of one of the tribe leaders?
Yeah, one of the leaders in the tribes. It just says one of the greats essentially. They go to him and they say to him, we want we're dying, we're being killed here for worshiping idols. What do we do? So Zimri gathers a bunch of people. He goes off into the bazaar. And he looks for the most prestigious woman he could find. And he finds a woman called Cosby, who was the daughter of the chief king of the princess of the Midianite Confederation.
Mm-hmm.
So not from the Moabites and the Midianites. Which again, remember that the Moabites and the Midianites had
Beef.
They had beef, but they had been sending their daughters and their children, their women, to this bazaar to be part of this. So it's still unclear. Like, is it all Moabites? Is it some Moabites? I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they go out to the Moabites. They find Cosby. She was a Midianite, and they say, he's like, I want to take you home, but I want to take you home not in the bazaar.
Mm.
I'm bringing you back to the camp. And she says, well, actually, I was told that I'm supposed to try to find Moses. And Zimri's like, well, actually, I'm better than Moses, trust me. Okay. That's what Rashi says. Rashi points it out, which is fascinating, which is the whole, I don't know, I don't get it. Like, I get the idea of it. The idea was she was like, we're gonna get every Jew, basically. That was the idea. We're gonna get every Jew, we're gonna get them all, we're gonna seduce them all, and we're gonna get all of them to worship idols. In the course of this, it's a double hitter. It's like a double immorality, idolatry, it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he brings her by the arm. He takes her by the hand, basically. He brings her in front of the entire people, and before Moses, and he says, "Can I marry her? Can I sleep with her?"
This is a leader of one of the Jewish people.
The tribe of Shimon, and he says, and if you say no, so Moses, your wife is Midianite. Maybe she's even her cousin. Who knows? It was very brazen, incredibly brazen. And don't forget that Moses married Zipporah before the Torah was given. She went through the same conversion that all the entire Jewish nation went through. So the whole question doesn't exist. Also, by this point, Moses and Zipporah, we mentioned in an earlier podcast,
are divorced.
They're separated or divorced. They're like he's talking to God all day. Like, that's a whole different situation. But either way, Zimri says this in public to the thing, and basically his idea was basically like break the leadership of Moses, stop the plague because we're just going crazy. He takes her into a tent and he begins to do the action, to do the deed with her. And Moshe forgot what's supposed to happen because of the chaos. He was paralyzed essentially, and so him and the other Israelites are with the Sanhedrin, other people. They're standing there. They're all. If Moses is paralyzed, what to do? They don't know what to do. Everyone's frozen. Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, Moses' brother. Aaron had passed away. Don't forget.
Mm-hmm. So Elazar is now the Kohen Gadol.
Yeah, he's the high priest's grandson, and he says.
And he's not Elazar's son.
He's Elazar's son. He is Elazar's. He's Elazar's direct son. Important to point out, he's not a Kohen. Because the ones that became Kohanim was Aaron, his 4 sons, and any children that were to be born afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Pinchas was born in Egypt already. He had been alive when he came out with them. He was older, but he didn't have any. So he wasn't a Kohen. He was just a regular Levite.
But later, his descendants become, right?
One second.
Okay.
So Pinchas comes to Moses, and he says, did you not teach us, our master, that if somebody is having public-private relations with a Gentile woman, with a non-Jewish woman, that someone sees it happening and is overcome with anger over this desecration of God's name, that you're allowed to kill him? And Moses says, you are right. You've reminded me of this law. You remembered it. You fulfill it. He takes a spear in his hand. He goes into the tent. As he's walking into the tent, so many different things happened that miracles, non-miracles, however you want to read the story. Again, the way the Medrash says it was 10 miracles happened. But you can read it as being this very fluid and quick thing that he walks up to the tent, he walks with a spear. He has a spear tucked under in such a way with his robe and everything that it looks like it's a walking stick. Remember, the tent, he's doing this specifically to infringe on the whole what's going on. He's doing it to protect, to stop the plague or to cause whatever, to cause chaos.
Mm-hmm.
His other tribe members were standing around protecting the tent. And he comes in and he basically, Pinchas walks up and says, what? He's the only one that gets to have fun. I also want to have fun. He goes into the tent, he sees them in the action, he takes the spear and he puts it through him and through her in the act. Lifts them up, marches them out of the tent, carries them around the camp. They don't die yet. That's partial miracle. Because if they die, then he becomes impure.
Mm-hmm.
Why should they become impure? They should suffer a little bit. They suffer a little bit. And he goes all the way around the camp, throws them down. Throws them down in front of the tent of God, and the plague ceases. Pinchas davens.
This is not the only time he stops a plague, then, because I thought it was a different story.
The first plague was Aaron stopping the plague with incense. In Korach.
I'm thinking about in a different instance where he kills a lot of guys.
Pinchas later on in the next Torah portion, he becomes one of the generals of the army. He leads the charge. He started the mitzvah. He ends the mitzvah. There's a charge where they have a massive war of revenge
On Moab.
on Midian.
On Midian.
Which again is interesting because Midian is the one who really gets the brunt. Clearly, they were deeply involved. They were probably the ones who supplied most of the girls for this project, which is wild.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because this entire conversation, there's a multi-layered thing here. One, obviously, is that this is a rebellion against God. It was a rebellion against Moses. But the law that is invoked here, and the law that is
idolatry,
the law that's invoked here is having a relationship with a non-Jewish woman, which is very intense. And this is where it goes a little non-PC, which is to say that Judaism looks at intermarriage, meaning, again, the word intermarriage, thinking about this earlier today, what the right way to describe it, because this is the place where it speaks about it. The word intermarriage sounds so strange, because in modern times, what is intermarriage? Is there intermarriage between races? Is that forbidden? It's allowed, right? Is there different cultures, different styles of people? Sometimes you meet people and they're two very clearly different cultures of people. Nothing wrong, nothing bad. You see an Indian man or woman married to someone from England, right? Very, very different in style. You meet somebody, one of these very warm, flamboyantly, Latin American people, like male or female, married to, someone from Amsterdam, and they're just like tall. They don't move. They don't talk. Right? You're just like, okay, what a fascinating relationship, right?
Yeah.
So this idea that there's people marry other types of people is so that's the word intermarriage is a code word for this thing.
Yeah.
Judaism understands that for a Jewish person to have a deep connection and to have a true marriage from a spiritual perspective, that can only happen one Jew to another Jew. And that intermarriage of a Jew to a non-Jew isn't good for the people involved.
Even if but not if that person does a giur.
If a person converts, they become fully Jewish.
Yeah.
If they become fully Jewish, then there's two Jewish
no longer intermarriage.
There's two Jewish people marrying each other. It's not someone marrying and again, it's not that there's different types of people. It's that a Jewish person has a Jewish soul that bonds with a Jewish person that has a Jewish soul. And if it's not both Jewish, it doesn't work. Now, that isn't to say, just to go along with this, very clear, I know people that are married to people of the other faith, of another faith, and they have, marriages that are externally seem very, very beautiful, very powerful, very nice. I know people who are Jewish and that are beautiful and nice, and they have a non-Jewish partner. And I know very, very beautiful, nice people who are not Jewish that have a Jewish partner. So it's not a judgment on the type of person that does this or a person that makes that decision. It's not a judgment on the quality of the relationship. It's not. It's a judgment on this on what is the spiritual truth that God speaks to us, and that is that Jewish people should be marrying Jewish people, and people who are not Jewish should be marrying people who are not Jewish.
I agree on a way more simple level. Like, I agree with everything you said, but I agree even just to make it like Judaism is not a you put it on and take it off. Judaism is something you live, and so is Christianity. Like every faith. And if it's something that you choose to practice, or you were chosen to practice,
right?
You like, why would you want your kids to have a split message about that?
I agree with you. I see in a sense what you're saying is it strikes you also strange.
It doesn't strike me also strange because I have family members who married outside of the faith and outside of the religion.
When you see someone who's very deeply involved in their religion, on a different religion, and then they marry someone of a different faith of their own, it also strikes you strange. Without the Kabbalistic thing of
100%.
soul types and whatever, right? But this idea that someone who is deeply Mormon, right? And they're going to go marry someone Islamic or a Muslim, right? So then you just look at that and you say, like...
Something I am a fan of, by the way.
Interesting.
And this is a little more nuanced, but like in Israel, it's far more it happens, I think, a lot more than it happens here in the States. But that you'll have one parent who's a lot more religious than the other parent.
Right.
And I actually really like that. And I have several friends from homes that are like that. And it's really cool to see half of the family, like 2 siblings and the mom, like super religious. And the dad and another like sibling that are not like, they're not obviously anti. They're just like, you can go to shul. I'm gonna go drive to the beach with the older one, and vice versa. Like I've seen, like it's not a father or a mother usually. It can go. I like that because I think it emphasizes that there are several ways to practice your Judaism, and the exception that comes with it. I think there's like a very warm thing that happens there.
Yeah, but that's not somebody who's it's not somebody who's saying, I'm going to practice a different faith than you.
Yeah, no.
Deeply
exactly.
practice it.
Yeah.
It's just, again, and I'm not judging the people involved, etc. But it just seems strange because then, there are some people, to bring a weird metaphor into it, but not a metaphor, but a thing. Some people that are so Republican that they can't even imagine dating someone who leans Democrat at all, right? And there are some couples that are, one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, and they live a happy life.
Yeah.
And they're not lightly Democratic or Republican, they're medium level, but they realize that there's a relationship and their personal connection and everything else. It runs deeper than that. I believe faith and a religion, especially for Jewish people, runs at a core level that is deeply intertwined.
Yeah, because whether people like to believe it or not, they do take off their Democrat or Republican hat at certain times. When they're buying water at the store,
Correct.
They're not a Republican or a Democrat.
I know some Republicans that don't, but yeah, keep going.
No, but yeah, 100%. But like when you're going for a walk, you're neither a Republican or a Democrat.
Right.
When you're going on a Shabbos walk, you're a Jew.
Right.
When you're going to the bathroom,
right,
you're a Jew.
Right.
When you're like and the more you practice, the more those things get intertwined in your life. So it just like, aside from the Kabbalistic concept, it's always like, it makes sense to me that, like, I just look at myself as someone who's not I wouldn't call myself an Orthodox practicing Jew.
Yeah.
I definitely am a practicing Jew, but like, I don't want to give my kids like a
complicated legacy.
Right? Yeah, like something that like too much room for interpretation as to how important this is.
Right. And again, I'm going to caveat. emphasize again. I know people that grew up in mixed marriage homes.
Mm-hmm.
The kids came out beautiful.
Yeah.
And the kids came out stable. And I know people that grew up, etc. So it's very important to emphasize that this comes from a psychological perspective, a spiritual perspective. It comes from a Kabbalistic perspective, and it's a difficult thing to talk about usually because it's a conversation that is deeply involved in emotion and in love, and
Makes it harder.
it makes it much harder.
So I have a question. Later on, meaning a few hundred years down the line, one of our kings starts marrying outside of the kingdom. Shlomo. And it wasn't frowned upon.
So the understanding is they all converted.
Yeah, Malkat Shva.
So Malkat Shva didn't. I don't know if she married him. In our tradition, I don't think she married him. I think they have it in their tradition that they married. I think they just
I think they married.
married. Could be. I'm wrong.
Well, she's like one of the few people who's called out by name that came to the palace.
She came to. So the way that you can read this simply is that she came to spar with him, intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
She came to be impressed by the Jewish kingdom.
Mm-hmm. By the wise
I
King
don't know if
Solomon.
it says. Yeah, I don't know if it says that they married.
Okay.
I know there is a tradition. There are other people in other traditions. I think the Ethiopians have a tradition that they married, they had kids, etc., etc.
Some of Ethiopians, and also the Rastafari culture believes that they are descendants of the Queen of Sheba, which is why
Fascinating.
Which is why, if you look at a lot of their terminology, they talk about Zion, and they call themselves the tribe of the lion. And they
Comes
consider
from there.
themselves to be the Messiah,
Got it. Okay.
which is why they call themselves lions.
I mean, the Mormons have found the Garden of Eden in Utah, which is fascinating too.
It moved.
Obviously, I was there. I moved it. Wasn't easy.
Wasn't easy.
But the whole thing is so again, it's kind of the same way that Zimri asks Moses. He says, "Oh, you married someone who looks, clearly not Jewish, clearly not from the family, so to speak.
Yeah.
How is it possible? Maybe I can be with her, right?" If you understand, he's like, "Yes, she went through the process. She went with all of us correctly and properly, and if you want this princess to do the same, we could probably hook you up, but not right now.
Yeah.
It takes a day.
It's not the time. We're in the middle of a crisis.
We're in the middle of a crisis. We can wait a couple days and we can figure this out.
You used the word petrified to describe Moshe's state. I like the way I picture him is just appalled. He's like, what am I witnessing right now?
Yeah, and it's unclear how long were they doing this the whole thing.
157,000 people was not a day.
Right. So there was Moses. Where was Moses? Was he not aware?
I'm sure at the beginning he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, right. But was it? It could be that he was teaching the Jews. Remember, there's 600,000 plus men
between the age of 20 and 60.
Right. So they're around.
Yeah.
And so if you're teaching 600,000 people and the last 150 walk off, do you see it?
Probably not.
And was he teaching mass crowds in the same way? Not necessarily. Could be he had a yeshiva going. He had a yeshiva, and people came, and there were sessions, and they were coming, and they had questions, they had answers, and he was talking to the leaders and doing some education and doing some other thing, maybe running a leadership program. Did he walk through the entire camp every single day?
Yeah.
And even if he did, would he have seen, where are they going? They went to the bazaar. Interesting.
Yeah.
Did he spiritually not sense it until it was too late? Did he sense it spiritually? Something was off, and that's why he was trying to figure out what's going on. But God comes to him and speaks to him and tells him what's going on. He comes to him and says, "You got to punish this. I put a plague in, and you got to punish them."
So Pinchas puts a spear through both of them, walks them around the tent, throws them down in front of Ohel Moed. Plague stops.
And he prays to God that the plague should stop, and then it stops.
Okay. That's not how the Parsha ends.
That's exactly how it ends.
That's how it ends?
Exactly how it ends.
I'm going to say this. I feel like I'm going to be saying this every week for a while, but favorite story.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I think there's, so coming back to re-bring us full circle, where do we come from? It's interesting that there's two things here three things we uncovered. Number one is the narrative itself, the story of the cursing and the blessing and how it went down and the whole thing. With Bilam being hired by Balak. Bilam actually comes back to get paid now for
his
successfully wiping out 157,000 people
Mm-hmm.
of the Jewish people, plus another 24 on top of that. So it's a lot of people that die in this whole
Another
thing,
24.
in the plague.
24,000 die in the plague?
Yeah. That's the actual verse that ends the Torah portion. Those who died in the plague numbered 24,000.
So what is the 157,000?
157 plus 24.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people that die. So Bilam comes back to get paid, and that's when he's there when the war starts.
I have to picture Moses writing this portion, on a poetic level or on a literal, like, literature level. I think it's beautiful that the story of Bilam is almost just it's like the narrator talking on a black screen explaining, like, and they've tried and there's nothing that we can do. The only way, Jews are bulletproof unless they're holding the gun.
Yeah.
And then that happens.
And then it's chaos.
And then it shows them exactly how that happens.
Right.
So it's a really, it's a cool literature piece, the way it's structured. You have so much. How many chapters is the Bilam stuff?
Yeah, it's
most of
99% of it. Yeah, 80.
And then we're the only ones who can be screwing ourselves over.
Great.
And here's how it happens.
It's so and it's interesting because, again, the balancing, if you want to blend those two ideas, the idea of the sorcery and then black magic energy and the klipa energy, combining that and the speech, the power of speech, and then this idea of the Jews hurting themselves, really it's all the same thing. We can only hurt ourselves if we are channeling our energies towards the negative energies and searching out, paganistic ideas and speaking them into existence, and speaking badly about each other, and speaking badly, using the wrong languages, the wrong way of communication with each other. It's the whole thing. It's all the same thing. In other words, the Shittim story today, where the Jews are self-damaging, sometimes it just happens in a macro level, like it happened then, and so there's a micro level. Like
one person at a time.
One person speaking badly about another person and ruining their. You have to be very careful when people come in and is that person a good person or not? As someone who tries to lead a community, I think about that a lot when people say, "Oh, is that a good person?" So if I do think they're a great person, it's an easy thing to say. But if I'm not as confident in their abilities, I try very, very hard to not say yes, not say no, because let them earn their rights,
their merit. Let
them earn their merits, and I only experience them from one angle, and maybe if you turn a different angle, it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
Be very careful, because you can ruin someone's job prospects. You can ruin someone's life off a careless word. When you say something about them or about their capabilities, their capacities, they're just like, and people love to talk about other people. It's so fun. It's so easy to gossip.
So much easier.
It's fun to gossip.
Yeah, it's also easier to. It's this. I see it as the same as social media. It's so much easier to do this than focus on the big world and the big
real thoughts
and the real thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's so much easier to focus on other people than on what's going on. When you're having a bad day and someone asks you how you are, it's so much easier to be like, I'm okay, than to elaborate to either direction. That being said, like when someone asks you, it's like, oh, have you seen what's his face? The gates can open up so quickly.
Easy, right.
Beautiful.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap?
It's a wrap.
Parashat Balak.
Parashat Balak.
Thank you.